Have you ever felt that your home looks peaceful on the outside, yet something inside feels quietly unsettled? Have you ever wondered how God can feel distant, not because of great sins, but because of small, repeated habits? And have you ever asked yourself if the words spoken daily within your home might be shaping its spiritual atmosphere more than you realize? There are words that do not sound dangerous. They are not aggressive. They are not openly sinful. They are spoken casually, almost without thought. And yet, Saint Thérèse of Lisieux understood something deeply unsettling. Small daily words can slowly distance a home from God's tender presence without anyone noticing. A home does not lose God's closeness through noise or rebellion, but through small words repeated without love. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux. Subscribe if you wish to walk this little way and learn how small daily choices shape the spiritual heart of your home. Saint Thérèse believed that holiness is built or weakened in ordinary life, not in rare moments but in daily language, in the tone of voice, in repeated phrases, in words spoken when no one is watching, when fatigue replaces patience, when familiarity replaces reverence. She taught that God dwells where love is practiced simply, and love, she insisted, is revealed first in speech. Your home is not shaped only by prayers said aloud. It is shaped by words spoken in kitchens, hallways, bedrooms, and quiet conversations. Words spoken when things go wrong. Words spoken when you are tired. Words spoken when love is tested. Saint Thérèse would say that these words either invite God to remain or gently ask him to step back. And what makes this so dangerous is that the words we are about to explore are not obviously wrong. They are ordinary, common, familiar. They sound reasonable, even harmless, but repeated daily, they slowly change the spiritual climate of a home. Think of a small window left open during winter. At first, the cold is barely noticeable, but hour by hour, the warmth fades. No storm entered. No door was slammed. The cold simply came in quietly. This is how these small words work. They cool tenderness. They weaken gratitude. They reduce patience. They make love feel heavy instead of joyful. Saint Thérèse believed that God delights in homes where small sacrifices are made silently, where words are chosen with care, and where love is protected in little things. She insisted that God's presence is drawn to humility, gentleness, and simplicity, and repelled by bitterness, impatience, and self-centered speech. Before we name the first of the 5 small daily words, pause and reflect. What words are spoken most often in your home? What tone fills your ordinary conversations? What phrases come out when stress appears? The little way teaches that nothing is insignificant, not even a word, especially not a word. In this journey, we will uncover 5 small daily words that Saint Thérèse would gently warn us about. Not to accuse, not to condemn, but to awaken awareness. Because awareness is the first step back to love. And love is what makes a home a dwelling place for God. Before Saint Thérèse of Lisieux would ever correct a word spoken in the home, she would first ask us to examine the spirit behind it. Because for her, words do not distance a home from God simply because of their sound, but because of the attitude they carry. A single word, repeated daily, can slowly train the heart, either toward love or away from it. The first small daily word that quietly distances a home from God is later. Later sounds harmless, responsible even, but spiritually it can become a quiet refusal of love. Later, I'll pray. Later, I'll apologize. Later, I'll be patient. Later, I'll listen. Later, I'll forgive. Saint Thérèse understood that love lives in the present moment. She wrote, "I have only today to love." For her, postponing love was the same as withholding it. Not because tomorrow is wrong, but because grace is always given now. When later becomes a habit in the home, tenderness is delayed, and delayed tenderness slowly becomes forgotten tenderness. Imagine a simple scene. A family member speaks sharply. There is tension. The heart feels the invitation to soften, to respond gently, but the word rises silently inside. Later. Later I'll fix this. Later I'll say sorry. Later I'll show affection. But later rarely comes. Saint Thérèse would say that love postponed becomes love weakened. The little way teaches immediacy, not perfection, but responsiveness. God's presence in a home is nourished by small, immediate acts of love. A soft answer, a gentle correction, a quiet apology, a moment of listening. Later teaches the heart to ignore grace. And when grace is ignored repeatedly, God feels less at home. This does not mean every moment must be intense or dramatic. Thérèse was deeply realistic. She knew fatigue, distraction, and limitation. But she insisted that when the heart notices the invitation to love, it should respond simply, even if only with a small gesture. A word, a look, a silence chosen instead of a reaction. The danger of later is not laziness, it is spiritual delay. It trains the home to operate without awareness of God's nearness in daily moments. Prayer becomes postponed, reconciliation becomes delayed, gratitude becomes optional. And slowly, quietly, the atmosphere cools. Saint Thérèse would gently remind us, God does not wait for later. He meets us in the present moment, and He dwells where the present moment is loved. Ask yourself honestly, how often does later replace now in your home? How often is love postponed in small ways? How often is tenderness delayed, not out of cruelty, but out of habit? The little way calls us back to immediacy, to loving now, to choosing gentleness when it is hardest, because that is precisely when God draws nearest. The second small daily word Saint Thérèse of Lisieux would gently caution us about is one that sounds honest, even justified, and that is precisely why it is so dangerous. The word is always. You always do this. You always forget. You always react this way. This always happens. At first, always feels like clarity, but spiritually, it becomes a quiet sentence of judgment. Saint Thérèse believed that love sees with mercy, not with finality. She knew that the heart grows cold when it begins to define people by their weaknesses instead of loving them in their fragility. And the word always does exactly that. It freezes a moment into an identity. She wrote, "Charity consists in bearing with the faults of others, but always does the opposite. It remembers faults, it repeats them, it seals them." In a home, this word slowly erodes tenderness. Imagine a simple exchange at the table. A mistake is made, a frustration rises, and the word slips out, "You always do this." In that instant, the conversation changes, the heart closes, defense replaces dialogue, love retreats quietly. Saint Thérèse would say that this word wounds not because it is loud, but because it removes hope. When someone hears always, they no longer feel invited to grow. They feel condemned to remain the same. And where hope is weakened, God's presence feels distant. The little way teaches us to see souls as unfinished, always in process, always loved, always capable of change through grace. Thérèse never reduced herself or others to their failures. She trusted that God was working invisibly, even when change was slow. The word always forgets this truth. It replaces patience with frustration. It replaces mercy with certainty. It replaces humility with moral superiority. In a home, repeated use of always builds an atmosphere of accusation. People stop feeling safe, vulnerability disappears, silence increases, and God, who dwells where love protects dignity, is gently pushed aside. This does not mean ignoring problems. Thérèse was not naive. She believed in truth, but truth spoken with gentleness, correction without humiliation, honesty without harshness. She would invite us to replace always with something smaller, softer, truer. Sometimes this happens. This moment was difficult. I feel hurt right now. These words leave room for grace. Always closes the door. Ask yourself quietly, how often is this word spoken in your home? Does it appear during moments of fatigue or irritation? Has it become part of your daily language? Saint Thérèse teaches that God draws close to homes where words leave space for mercy, where love is bigger than frustration and patience is stronger than irritation. The third small daily word that Saint Thérèse of Lisieux would quietly warn us about is a word that sounds firm, even responsible, yet slowly hardens the heart against grace. The word is, but. I understand you, but. I'm sorry, but. I know this is important, but on the surface but seems harmless. It appears logical, balanced, reasonable. Spiritually, however, it often cancels love. Saint Thérèse believed that love listens fully before it explains. The little way is not about winning arguments or proving points. It is about protecting tenderness, and but subtly shifts the focus from understanding to defense, from compassion to justification. She wrote, "Charity must not remain hidden in the depths of the heart. It must be shown in little acts." The word "but" often prevents those little acts from happening. Imagine a simple scene in the home. Someone expresses pain. They speak vulnerably. And the response comes quickly. "I understand, but you also need to see my side." In that moment, the heart that opened feels gently closed again, not attacked, just unheard. Saint Thérèse would say that love does not rush to explain itself. Love pauses. Love absorbs. Love stays present. The word "but" interrupts that presence. It introduces resistance where openness was needed. In daily life, this word slowly teaches the home a dangerous habit, listening only enough to reply, not enough to love. And where listening fades, God's tenderness fades too. The little way invites us to replace "but" with silence, with patience, or with words that keep the heart open. "I hear you. I'm with you." That must be hard. These phrases do not deny truth. They simply honor the moment. Saint Thérèse understood that timing matters in love. Truth spoken without tenderness wounds. Even truth spoken too quickly can close the soul. She believed that humility knows when to speak and when to remain quiet. The word "but" often reveals a hidden self-reliance, the need to defend, explain, justify, or protect one's own position. It places the self at the center of the exchange instead of love, and God withdraws gently from homes where self-protection replaces self-giving. Ask yourself, how often does "but" appear in your conversations? Does it follow apologies? Does it interrupt listening? Does it arise when you feel misunderstood? Saint Thérèse teaches that love grows where the heart remains open, even when it feels uncomfortable. Removing "but" does not mean losing truth. It means allowing love to lead. The fourth small daily word Saint Thérèse of Lisieux would gently caution us about is a word spoken often in moments of fatigue, a word that seems honest, yet slowly drains gratitude from the heart. The word is just. I'm just tired. It's just how things are. It's just a small thing. I'm just saying. At first, just sounds modest. It appears to minimize conflict, but spiritually, it does something subtle and dangerous. It minimizes grace. Saint Thérèse believed that nothing in daily life is insignificant when it is lived with love. She wrote, "To pick up a pin for love can convert a soul." For her, there was no such thing as just anything. When just becomes habitual in the home, wonder slowly disappears. The heart stops noticing small blessings. Gratitude weakens. Ordinary moments lose their sacred weight. Imagine a simple scene, a meal on the table, a quiet evening, a shared moment, and someone says, "It's just dinner." Not ungrateful, just unaware. Saint Thérèse would say that awareness is where love begins. God's presence is drawn to hearts that notice, that receive, that see the extraordinary hidden inside the ordinary. The word "just" dulls that vision. It teaches the heart to overlook what God is offering quietly. Just also protects emotional distance. I was just joking. I'm just being honest. In these moments, the word becomes a shield, a way to avoid responsibility for how words land, how hearts are affected. It softens accountability while hardening sensitivity. The little way invites the opposite posture, attentiveness. Thérèse paid attention to the smallest details, a tone of voice, a fleeting irritation, a quiet joy. She believed God was present precisely there. When just fills a home, conversations become flat. Gratitude fades into routine. Love becomes functional instead of intentional. And God, who delights in being noticed, feels less welcome. This does not mean every moment must be emotional or intense. Thérèse cherished simplicity, but simplicity for her was never careless. It was reverent, present, awake, replaced just with gratitude, even silently. Thank you for this moment. This matters. This is enough. These small interior movements restore warmth to a home. Ask yourself gently, how often does just minimize moments that deserve gratitude? Has routine replaced reverence? Has familiarity dulled tenderness? Saint Thérèse teaches that God dwells where hearts remain awake, where small things are received with love and nothing is dismissed as insignificant. The fifth small daily word Saint Thérèse of Lisieux would most gently and most firmly warn us about is a word that rarely sounds unkind, yet quietly builds resistance inside the heart. The word is fine. I'm fine. It's fine. Everything is fine. On the surface, this word sounds peaceful, mature, controlled. Spiritually, however, it often hides something else: closedness. Saint Thérèse believed that God draws near to openness, not to emotional control. She understood that love cannot dwell where the heart refuses to reveal itself. And fine is often the word that seals the heart shut, not in anger, but in silent withdrawal. When fine becomes habitual in a home, honesty slowly disappears. Imagine a moment of tension. Something hurts, something feels unresolved. Someone asks, "Are you okay?" And the answer comes softly, quickly, "I'm fine." But the heart is not fine. It is tired. It is wounded. It is closed. Saint Thérèse would say that God's tenderness cannot enter where truth is hidden, even when it is hidden politely. The little way does not encourage emotional drama, but it does insist on simplicity of heart. Saying fine when the heart is not fine trains the soul to live divided, presenting calm while carrying pain alone. This is a subtle form of self-reliance. I'll deal with this myself. I won't open my heart. I won't need anyone. And where the heart refuses to open, God's care feels distant. Thérèse wrote, "I tell Jesus everything." Not selectively, not carefully, everything. She knew that pretending strength distances the soul from God's tenderness. God does not ask for composure. He asks for truth. He does not need your calm exterior. He desires your honest interior. In a home, repeated use of fine slowly creates emotional silence. Conversations become shallow, depth is avoided, vulnerability feels unsafe. And God, who dwells in truth and openness, is quietly excluded. This does not mean every feeling must be shared immediately. Thérèse valued silence, but her silence was never defensive. It was surrendered. The difference matters. Ask yourself, how often do you say fine when your heart is not at peace? Is it easier to withdraw than to open? Has silence replaced honesty? Saint Thérèse teaches that love requires truth, and truth requires courage, the courage to be little, to be seen, to be carried. With this fifth word we complete the list, but not the lesson. When Saint Thérèse of Lisieux spoke about holiness, she never isolated actions or words. She understood that the soul and the home is shaped by patterns, not moments. The danger of these 5 small daily words is not in any single use, but in how they quietly combine and form a spiritual climate. Later, always, but just, fine. Individually they seem harmless. Together they create distance. They delay love. They judge quickly. They defend instead of listen. They minimize grace. They hide the heart. And slowly, without noise, the home becomes less tender. Saint Thérèse believed that God's presence is drawn to homes where love is practiced intentionally in small things. She taught that the spiritual atmosphere of a home is shaped more by how people speak than by how often they pray aloud. A home can pray daily and still grow cold. A home can appear peaceful and still lack tenderness. Why? Because words form habits. Habits form attitudes. Attitudes form atmosphere. And atmosphere determines whether the heart feels safe enough to love. Thérèse would say that God does not leave a home suddenly. He withdraws gently when love grows careless, not as punishment, but as respect. God never forces himself where hearts close slowly. Imagine a fire in a hearth. If small pieces of wood stop being added, the fire does not go out immediately. It fades. The warmth lingers, then cools. These words are like stopping to tend the fire. Saint Thérèse teaches that awareness is the beginning of restoration, not guilt, not fear, awareness. When the heart notices how it speaks, it regains the power to choose love again. And the beautiful truth is this: the same way small words distance a home from God, small words can bring him back. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux never focused on removing faults without replacing them with love. The little way is not about control. It is about conversion of the heart through small choices. And so for every word that distances a home from God, there is a smaller, gentler alternative that restores closeness. Instead of later, she invites now. Now I will love. Now I will listen. Now I will soften my tone. Instead of always, she invites this moment. This moment is difficult. This moment needs patience. Instead of but, she invites silence or presence. I hear you. I'm here. Instead of just, she invites gratitude. This matters. Thank you for this. Instead of fine, she invites truth spoken gently. I'm tired. I need a moment. I feel hurt. These replacements are not techniques. They are acts of humility. Saint Thérèse believed that humility is what makes God feel at home. Not grand humility, but the humility of choosing love over defense, presence over control, truth over withdrawal. When these small changes enter a home, something shifts almost immediately. Conversations soften, tension loosens, hearts reopen. And God, who never left far, draws near again. The little way reminds us that God does not need perfect homes. He needs loving ones. Homes where people try again, speak gently again, choose patience again. This is how God's tenderness returns, quietly, faithfully, generously. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux believed that a holy home is not one without conflict, fatigue, or weakness, but one where love is always chosen again. The 5 small daily words we explored do not destroy a home overnight, and neither does their healing require perfection. What it requires is intentional love. A home becomes a dwelling place for God when its members begin to care about how they speak, not to impress, but to protect tenderness. When words are chosen with awareness, humility, and charity, the atmosphere changes. Peace becomes possible again. God becomes felt again. Thérèse would remind us that holiness does not arrive through grand reforms, but through small faithfulness. A gentle answer, a delayed reaction, a softened tone, a sincere apology, a moment of silence instead of defense. These are the bricks of a sacred home. She wrote, "Love proves itself by deeds." And in daily life, words are among the smallest and most powerful deeds we offer. If your home has felt distant from God, do not be afraid. He has not abandoned it. He is simply waiting when quietly for the heart to reopen. And reopening begins with one small act of love, one softened word, one honest sentence, one moment of patience. Saint Thérèse invites you to begin today, not by correcting everyone else, but by becoming smaller yourself, because love spreads gently, and humility transforms silently. Let your home become a place where God feels welcome again, not through noise, but through tenderness. That is the little way.